Captain Han Ji-woo stood in the communication center of the Galactic Council Station, staring at yet another emergency message. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, forgotten beside the terminal that never stopped flashing with new crisis alerts. This one came from the mining colony on Tarsus 7th. Pirates again. The colonists were begging for help, and the Council's own security forces were mysteriously unavailable. Ji-woo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been awake for 30 hours straight. Before Tarsus the 7th, there had been a trade dispute on Kelvin's world that required human mediators. Before that, a medical emergency on Station 42, where human doctors were the only ones willing to respond. And before that, another crisis, and another, stretching back through weeks and months until the days blurred together into one endless emergency. He typed out the orders, dispatching 3 human patrol ships to Tarsus 7th. They would arrive in 2 days if they pushed their engines hard. Some of his people would probably die defending aliens they had never met. That was just how things worked in the Council. Humans did the dying, everyone else did the talking. In another part of the massive station, Ambassador Lee Yuna sat through her 5th hour of Council session that day. The chamber was beautiful, in a cold way. All gleaming metal and floating holographic displays. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated spots, their translators humming softly as they converted alien languages into something everyone could understand. Today's debate was about security funding for the frontier zones. Councillor Thex, the avian chairman with silver feathers and sharp black eyes, was explaining once again why the Council could not possibly increase the defense budget. His translator made his chirping voice sound almost reasonable. "We must be practical," Thex said, his head tilting in that way his species did when they wanted to appear thoughtful. "The current arrangements work adequately. We have human forces protecting the frontier. Why fix what is not broken?" Yuna felt her jaw tighten. She had heard this argument before, many times. The current arrangement meant human soldiers died, while Council members debated. The current arrangement meant human ships patrolled space lanes that benefited everyone except humans. The current arrangement meant humanity paid in blood, while the Council paid nothing at all. She wanted to stand up and scream at them. She wanted to list every human who had died in the past year alone, defending worlds that were not Earth. She wanted to ask Councillor Thex how many of his own species had died for the Council. She knew the answer. 12. In 200 years, 12 of Thex's people had died in Council service. Humanity had lost 340,000, but Yuna said nothing. She had learned that speaking up only led to long discussions about human concerns being noted and taken under advisement. Nothing ever changed. The other species had grown comfortable with humans doing all the hard work. After the session ended, Yuna walked through the station's main corridor. She passed human engineers working on the power grid, human technicians repairing the water recycling systems, human maintenance crews fixing the artificial gravity generators. Everywhere she looked, humans were working. The other species walked past them without a second glance, as if human labor was simply part of the station's natural function. She found Ji-woo in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He looked exhausted. They all did. Every human on the station wore the same, tired expression. "Another emergency?" she asked. "Tarsus 7. Pirates. I sent 3 ships." He did not look at her. "We will probably lose people. We always do." "Did the Council offer support?" Ji-woo laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What do you think?" They stood in silence for a while. Outside, a human cargo ship docked at the station. It carried medical supplies destined for 17 different worlds, all of them alien. The ship's crew had been working for 6 months straight, traveling from one crisis to another, delivering aid that humanity paid for and other species consumed. "I got a message today," Yuna said quietly. "From New Sol Colony. The plague we heard about 3 weeks ago? It is worse than we thought. They are asking for help." "What did the Council say?" They expressed deep concern. They suggested we redirect some of our medical teams from the other worlds They are currently helping. Jiwoo finally turned to look at her. So, take our people away from saving aliens to save our own people? That was their solution? They also offered thoughts and prayers. How generous. Yuna moved closer to the window. Far below, she could see Earth, a blue and green gem in the darkness. Home. It had been 3 years since she visited. 3 years of endless council sessions where humanity's concerns were always noted but never addressed. 3 years of watching her people break themselves for species that saw them as convenient tools. Do you know what this reminds me of? She asked. History class. Back on Earth. Learning about colonialism. How powerful nations would take from weaker ones, extract their resources, exploit their labor. Call it partnership, while treating them like servants. We are not colonized, Jiwoo said. Are we not? We serve their interests, not our own. We maintain their infrastructure. We fight their battles. We solve their problems. And in return, we get a seat at a table where no one listens when we speak. What would you call that? 1. Jiwoo had no answer. They both knew she was right. The Galactic Council was supposed to be a partnership of equals. But somewhere along the way, it had become something else. Humanity had become the galaxy's unpaid workforce, dying for causes that benefited everyone but themselves. What do we do? Jiwoo asked. Yuna pulled out her personal communicator. It was encrypted with Earth's highest security protocols. I am going to send a message to Prime Minister Kang. We need to talk about our future in this council. Really talk about it. They will never change, Jiwoo said. You know that. It is too convenient for them. Why would they give up free labor? They would not. Which is why we need to consider whether we want to keep giving it to them. That night, after Jiwoo returned to his quarters and Yuna had sent her encrypted message to Earth, the council station hummed with its usual activity. Human engineers monitored the hyperspace beacons that made faster-than-light travel possible. Human security teams patrolled corridors. Human medical staff treated patients in the station hospital. Human diplomats prepared briefings for the next day's sessions. None of the other species noticed the quiet exhaustion in human eyes. None of them wondered if there might be a limit to human patience. They had grown so accustomed to human service that they assumed it would continue forever. Far away on Earth, Prime Minister Kang Min-ho received Yuna's message. He read it 3 times, his expression growing darker with each reading. Then, he called an emergency meeting of his cabinet. It was time to discuss something that had been whispered about in private conversations but never seriously considered. What would happen if humanity simply left the Galactic Council? What would happen if they stopped carrying the galaxy on their shoulders? What would happen if they chose themselves for once? The question hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Prime Minister Kang Min-ho sat in Earth's government chamber, looking at numbers that should have made him angry. Instead, he just felt tired. Director Choi Dae had spent 6 weeks compiling the data, and now it was spread across holographic screens that filled the room with blue light. 73%, Choi said, pointing to one display. That is how much of the Council's critical infrastructure depends on human maintenance. The hyperspace beacon network, the communication relays, the power grids on major stations. All of it runs because we make it run. Admiral Park Sora stood beside another screen. Look at these military numbers. In the past century, humanity lost 340,000 soldiers in Council operations. The other 46 species combined lost 12,000. We are dying at a rate 28 times higher than everyone else. Kang moved to a third screen. This one showed agricultural data. Human farming worlds fed 47 different alien colonies. Medical data showed human doctors and researchers working on 89% of all plague response teams across the galaxy. Engineering data showed humans designed and maintained systems that other species did not even fully understand. We are not members of the Council, Kang said quietly. We are its foundation. It would collapse, Choi answered without hesitation. Most species cannot maintain their own interstellar infrastructure. They have relied on us for so long that they have forgotten how, or maybe never learned in the first place. And you think we should leave? I think we should decide for ourselves whether we want to continue like this. Right now, we have no choice. The Council expects our service, and we provide it. But expectations are not obligations. We could choose differently. Kang nodded slowly. He had been thinking about this since receiving Ambassador Yuna's message. For 200 years, Earth had been proud to serve in the Galactic Council. They had believed in unity, in cooperation, in building something greater together. But somewhere along the way, cooperation had become exploitation. Unity had become servitude. Set up a vote, he said. Every human colony, every settlement, every station. Ask them, should we stay in the council, or should we leave? Make it secure. Give them 3 weeks to decide. While Earth prepared for its vote, life continued on the council station. Ambassador Yuna sat through another endless session. Today, Councillor Thex wanted to discuss trade regulations. The avian chairman had a proposal to adjust tariffs on agricultural products, changes that would benefit his species while making human farming worlds less competitive. Yuna listened to him explain why this was fair and reasonable. She watched other councillors nod along, agreeing that human advantages in agriculture needed to be balanced. No one mentioned that humans achieved those advantages through hard work and innovation. No one mentioned that human farms fed half the council's member worlds. She raised her hand to speak. Thex acknowledged her with visible annoyance. These tariff changes would harm human agricultural colonies, she said. We feed 47 worlds, including your own, Counselor. Perhaps we should discuss fair compensation for that service before we discuss taking away our competitive advantages. Thex's feathers ruffled. Ambassador Yuna, the Council is not a marketplace for individual species to negotiate personal benefits. We must think of the greater good. The greater good, Yuna repeated. Does the greater good include 340,000 dead humans? Does it include human engineers working themselves to exhaustion? Maintaining your infrastructure? 1. Does it include human doctors saving alien lives while our own colonies beg for medical support? Your concerns are noted, Thex said in that dismissive tone she had heard 1,000 times. But we must focus on the matter at hand. The tariff proposal will be voted on next session. Yuna sat back down. Noted. Her concerns were always noted. Never addressed. Never taken seriously. Just noted and filed away. She caught Captain Jiwoo's eye from across the chamber. He had been watching from the visitors' gallery. His expression said what they both knew. Nothing would ever change here. After the session, Councillor Vrax approached her. The reptilian treasurer had a way of smiling that showed too many teeth. Ambassador Yuna, I hope you are not upset about the tariff discussion. It is just business. You understand. Just business, she said. Like when you denied funding for frontier defense? When human soldiers die protecting your trade routes? Is that just business too? Vrax's smile faded slightly. The Council has budgetary constraints. We must prioritize. You found money for the Grand Cultural Festival last month. 3 billion credits for a party. But you cannot find money to protect the people dying for you. That is different. Cultural exchange is important for Council unity. Oh, Yuna wanted to laugh in his face. Unity. They talked about unity while treating humans as expendable resources, but she kept her expression neutral. Of course, Counselor. I understand completely. Across the galaxy, Admiral Park Sora reviewed military deployment records in her office on Earth. The data made her sick. She had known it was bad, but seeing it all compiled was worse than she imagined. Human ships everywhere, protecting alien interests. Human soldiers on 40 different worlds, acting as peacekeepers in conflicts that had nothing to do with Earth. She pulled up casualty reports. Just last month, 17 humans died, defending a mining colony from raiders. The colony belonged to Councillor Vrax's species. Earth had asked for cost sharing on the security operations. The request was denied due to budgetary constraints. The same budget that funded billion-credit cultural festivals. Her communicator chimed. It was a message from one of her patrol commanders. More pirates in the frontier zones. The Council's own forces were not responding. Should she send human ships? She authorized the deployment, knowing she was sending people who might not come back. What else could she do? Let the colonists die? That was not who humans were. But maybe that was the problem. Humans cared too much. They helped too easily. And the galaxy had learned to exploit that compassion. On Earth, the vote counts started coming in. The results were not even close. Colony after colony voted the same way. Leave the council. End the exploitation. Come home. Director Choi watched the numbers with growing certainty. After 3 weeks, the final tally was clear. 94% of all humans across the galaxy voted to withdraw from the Galactic Council. Prime Minister Kang looked at the results for a long time. 94%. It was not even close. His people were tired of being used. They wanted out. All right, he said to his cabinet. We begin Operation Silent Departure. Every human, every ship, every facility. We set a date 6 months from now. On that day, everyone comes home. No warnings, no negotiations, no debates. We just leave. The council will be angry, someone said. Let them be angry, Kang replied. They had 200 years to treat us fairly. They chose exploitation instead. Now, they can learn to stand on their own. Admiral Sora began drafting orders. Every human military ship would return to Earth space on the appointed day. Every engineer would shut down their systems and leave. Every doctor would pack their equipment and go. It would be coordinated across thousands of worlds simultaneously. The galaxy would wake up one morning and find that humanity had vanished. Back on the council station, Captain Jiwoo watched another debate. This one was about communication, relay priorities. Councillor Thex was arguing that his species needed better access to the human-maintained network. Other councillors were chiming in with their own demands. Everyone wanted more from the humans who kept everything running. None of them seemed to consider that those humans might not want to keep running it. None of them imagined that patience had limits. They were so comfortable with the current system that they could not imagine it ending. Jiwoo had his orders now. In 6 months, he would shut down every system he and his people maintained. He would walk out of this station and never look back. The thought made him smile for the first time in weeks. The council thought humans would serve forever. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Engineer Baek-hyun had maintained Beacon Station 447 for 8 years. Every morning, he checked the hyperspace emitters that kept this section of space navigable. Every afternoon, he calibrated the quantum processors that calculated safe jump coordinates for thousands of ships. Every evening, he reviewed the next day's maintenance schedule. His entire adult life had been spent keeping this beacon running so that alien ships could travel safely through the galaxy. Today was different. Today, his communicator displayed a message with red priority coding. Operation Silent Departure. Execute now. Hyun looked at the beacon control panel. Everything was running perfectly. The emitters hummed with their usual steady rhythm. Ships were jumping through hyperspace right now, trusting that his beacon would guide them safely. In 72 hours, when the automated systems ran out of the special maintenance he provided, this beacon would go dark. Ships would be lost. Trade routes would close. But that was not his problem anymore. He began the shutdown procedure. Not an immediate shutdown that would kill people, but a graceful decline. He saved all his technical documentation to an encrypted drive. Maybe someday the aliens would figure out how to restart it. Maybe not. Either way, he would be gone. His alien coworkers noticed something was wrong. A small insectoid engineer named Clicks scuttled over on 6 legs. Hyun? What are you doing? Those are shutdown protocols. I am leaving, Hyun said simply. All humans are leaving. Leaving? But you cannot leave. Who will maintain the beacon? That is your problem now. Hyun picked up his personal belongings and walked toward the docking bay, where a human shuttle waited. Behind him, Clix was making distressed clicking sounds, calling for supervisors. It did not matter. By the time they figured out what was happening, he would be gone. On the plague world of Velis IV, Dr. Kim Nari was exhausted. She had been fighting this disease for 11 months without a break. The local insectoid population was dying by the millions. Her team had made progress, developed treatments that slowed the spread, but there was still so much work to do. Her communicator buzzed. Operation Silent Departure. She stared at the message, feeling torn. People were dying here. Her treatments could save them. But she had orders. More than that, she had voted for this herself. She was tired of saving aliens, while human colonies begged for help. Nari gathered her team. 23 human doctors and researchers. All of them looking as tired as she felt. We are leaving, she told them. Pack your research files, your equipment, everything. We have 6 hours to reach the evacuation ships. A young researcher named June looked confused. But the plague! We are close to a cure. Another few months, and we could save millions. We have been saving aliens for 200 years, Nari said. Now we save ourselves. Pack your things. She left all her research files on the facility's computers. Clear documentation. Detailed notes. Everything the Velesian scientists would need to continue the work. If they were smart enough to use it. That was up to them now. The Velesian government officials found her at the spaceport. They begged her to stay. Offered money, honors, anything she wanted. She shook her head. Find your own solutions. We are done solving everyone's problems. Commander Yoon Taeyang was in the middle of a battle when he received the departure order. His squadron was defending mining colony Epsilon from raiders. The colonists were a peaceful species that had no military of their own. For 15 years, human forces had protected them. The raiders knew this and usually stayed away. But today, they had decided to test human resolve. Taeyang's fighter weaved through weapons fire. His targeting computer locked onto a raider ship and he fired, watching it explode in a brief flash. His squadron moved in formation, driving the pirates back. It was a standard engagement. The kind of thing he had done 100 times before. Then his communicator chimed with the red priority message. He almost ignored it, focused on the battle. But something made him check. Operation Silent Departure. Execute now. All ships, break formation, he ordered. Return to the carrier. We are leaving. His pilots sounded confused over the comm channel. Sir? The raiders are retreating. We have them on the run. I know, but we are done here. They finished off the immediate threats, then withdrew. The mining colonists sent grateful messages, thanking them for another successful defense. They did not know it would be the last time. Taeyang did not tell them. He simply loaded his pilots onto the transport ships and left. On the council station, Ambassador Yuna walked into an emergency session. She had called it herself, using her authority as a council member. The councilors filed in, looking annoyed. They had been interrupted during their evening leisure time. Councillor Thex was particularly ruffled, his silver feathers sticking up at odd angles. Ambassador Yuna, this had better be important, he said. It is important, she said. She stood at the center of the chamber, looking at each councillor in turn. Some looked curious. Most looked bored. None of them had any idea what was coming. For 200 years, she began. Humanity has served this council faithfully. We have maintained your infrastructure. We have defended your worlds. We have solved your crises. We have asked for nothing but fair treatment in return. We have not received it. Thex waved a wing dismissively. Ambassador, if this is another complaint about resource allocation, I assure you, your concerns will be noted and reviewed at the appropriate time. I am not complaining, Yuna said. I am informing. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties are void. All agreements are cancelled. All human personnel are recalled. You are on your own now. Goodbye. The chamber erupted. Counselors were standing, shouting, demanding explanations. Thex was chirping so loudly his translator struggled to keep up. You cannot do this. This is a negotiating tactic. Sit down and we will discuss your concerns. But Yuna was already walking toward the exit. Captain Jiwoo met her at the door, along with every other human in the station. They moved as a group, ignoring the shouts behind them. Within hours, they were on transport ships heading for Earth. The council members spent the next day waiting for humans to come back. They assumed this was a dramatic gesture, a way to force negotiations. They prepared generous offers, better terms, promises of reform, but no humans returned their calls. The communication channels were silent. On the second day, the first beacon went dark. Ships began reporting navigation failures. The council sent repair teams, but none of them knew how to fix the complex human-designed systems. More beacons failed. The hyperspace network began to collapse. On the third day, the council station's power grid started having problems. The human engineers who maintained it were gone. The backup systems kicked in, but those would only last a few months without proper maintenance. Counselor Vrax ran the numbers and felt his blood run cold. The council had no capacity to maintain the infrastructure humans had built. It would take decades to train their own people, assuming they could figure out how the systems worked at all. In the meantime, everything would fall apart. On the fifth day, food shipments stopped arriving at several major colonies. The human agricultural worlds were no longer exporting. Panic buying began. Rationing was implemented. On the seventh day, plague reports from Velis IV showed the disease spreading faster. Without human medical teams, the death toll was accelerating. By the end of the first month, 40% of the hyperspace beacon network was offline. Trade between systems had dropped by 60%. 3 colonies had declared states of emergency due to food shortages. The plague on Velis IV had killed another 50 million people. Councillor Thex stood in a nearly empty council chamber. Most representatives had returned to their homeworlds to deal with the crises there. The holographic displays flickered and dimmed as the power systems struggled. He finally understood what had happened. Humans had not been just another member species. They had been the glue holding everything together. Without them, the council was not weakened. It was destroyed. Far away on Earth, Prime Minister Kang Minho watched the reports with grim satisfaction. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. You cannot exploit people forever. Eventually, they leave. And when they leave, you discover how much you truly needed them. The last human ships entered Earth's solar system to cheering crowds. They were home. They were free. And they were done carrying the galaxy on their shoulders. 6 months after humanity's departure, the galaxy was dying. Not all at once, but slowly, like a machine grinding to a halt as each piece failed in turn. Governor Vell stood on the observation deck of his colony and watched ships in orbit, waiting for food deliveries that would never come. His world was an industrial colony. 3 billion people lived here, working in factories and refineries that turned raw materials into useful products. They had always imported their food from human agricultural worlds. It was efficient. The humans grew food better than anyone else, and his people focused on manufacturing. A perfect arrangement. Except the humans were gone now, and his people were starving. The first month had not been so bad. They had reserves, emergency supplies that could feed the colony for a while. But those reserves were running out. Vell had implemented rationing 2 months ago. People were allowed half their normal food intake. It was not enough. But it was all they had. Yesterday, the riots had started. Hungry people broke into food distribution centers. The police tried to stop them, but the police were hungry too. How do you ask people to enforce order when their children are starving? Vell had no answer. He sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council every day. They sent back sympathetic responses. They understood his crisis. They were working on solutions. But no solutions arrived. No food ships came. The council had no way to organize the relief effort. The humans had always handled that. Vel pulled up the statistics on his datapad. Before the humans left, his colony imported 90% of its food. Now they imported nothing. Local farming could feed maybe 10% of the population. The math was simple and terrible. Most of his people were going to starve. On Velis IV, the plague had become a catastrophe. Dr. Kim Nari's research team had left behind detailed notes and documentation. The Velesian scientists studied them carefully, trying to understand the treatments the humans had developed. But understanding the notes and actually producing the medicines were different things. The treatments required complex synthesis procedures. The humans had made it look easy, but they had years of experience with cross-species medicine. The Velesians were learning from scratch. Every day they worked, the death toll climbed higher. 100 million dead, then 200 million. The disease spread faster than the Velesian researchers could develop treatments. They were smart, capable scientists. But they lacked the background knowledge that human doctors had accumulated over centuries of galactic service. A young Velesian researcher named Trick worked 18-hour days trying to synthesize the compounds Dr. Nari had described. Sometimes, he succeeded. More often, he created useless chemicals that did nothing to stop the plague. He felt like he was building a complex machine after seeing it only once, trying to remember every detail, knowing that mistakes cost lives. Counselor Vrax sat in his office, surrounded by economic projections that all showed the same thing. Complete disaster. As the council's treasurer, he had always been good with numbers. He could calculate trade balances, project growth rates, forecast market trends. Right now, every calculation pointed to total collapse. The beacon network was 60% offline. The remaining beacons were failing at a rate of 1 per week. When the network hit 75% failure, interstellar travel would become effectively impossible. Different species were trying to develop their own navigation systems. But progress was slow. It would take years, maybe decades. Trade had dropped by 80%. Colonies that depended on imports faced starvation. Industrial worlds could not get raw materials. Agricultural worlds had no markets for their products. The integrated galactic economy was breaking apart into isolated systems. Vrax calculated that it would take at least 75 years and resources. The Council did not have to rebuild what humans had maintained. Even that assumed they could figure out how everything worked. Much of the human-designed infrastructure was still a mystery. They had left documentation. But understanding documentation and actually fixing complex systems were very different things. The military situation was even worse. With the beacon network failing, the Council could not coordinate defense forces. Pirates operated freely now, knowing no one could respond quickly enough to stop them. The old conflicts between species were flaring up again. Border disputes had turned into shooting wars. Without human peacekeepers to mediate, old hatreds were returning. Counselor Thex tried to hold emergency sessions, but fewer counselors showed up each time. Most had returned to their homeworlds. The Council itself was becoming irrelevant. What was the point of a galactic government when the galaxy was falling apart? Governor Vel's colony descended further into chaos. Food riots had become daily events. The police had given up trying to maintain order. People fought over scraps. The factories had shut down because the workers were too weak from hunger to operate them. The great industrial world was becoming a graveyard. Vel drafted one final message to the Council. He kept it simple. We are dying here. Send help or send nothing. But stop sending empty promises. No one replied. The Council had no help to give. On the former Council station, now largely abandoned, Counselor Thex walked through empty corridors. The lights flickered. Life support was failing in several sections. The human maintenance crews who had kept everything running were gone, and no one knew how to fix the problems they left behind. Thex thought about Ambassador Yuna's final words. She had called this exploitation. At the time, he had dismissed it as emotional exaggeration. Now he understood. The Council had not been a partnership. It had been a system where one species did all the work, and everyone else benefited. He recorded a message, knowing it might be his last official act. The station was dying around him. Soon he would have to evacuate. If he could find a ship with working navigation. To all species of the former Galactic Council, he began. I write this as a confession and a warning. We were given a gift. Humanity offered us partnership, cooperation, their skills and their service. We took everything they offered and demanded more. We treated them not as equals but as servants. We exploited their generosity until they had no choice but to leave. His voice remained steady even as the lights flickered again. Now we face the consequences. Our infrastructure is failing. Our colonies starve. Our economy collapses, and we have no one to blame but ourselves. Future generations must learn from our mistake. Partnership requires respect. Service must be reciprocated. And exploitation, no matter how convenient, always carries a price. The message went out across what remained of the communication network. Some called it Thex's Lament. It became famous. A cautionary tale about taking others for granted. But warnings and regrets did not fix broken beacons or feed hungry colonies. The galaxy continued its slow collapse. Some species adapted better than others. A few had maintained some independent capability and managed to survive on single-system economies, but most had grown dependent on the galactic infrastructure, and that infrastructure was gone. Counselor Vrax received a final report from his analysts. 19 civilizations were projected to collapse completely within the decade. Another 18 would regress to single-system governments, losing the ability to travel between stars. Only 10 species would maintain any meaningful interstellar presence. The golden age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of isolated survival had begun. On Earth, Admiral Han Jiwoo monitored the situation with professional detachment. Intelligence reports provided detailed updates on the Council's disintegration. Some members of Earth's government felt sympathy. They suggested sending humanitarian aid, reviving the old relationships. Prime Minister Kang put it to a vote. Should humanity help the species that had exploited them? The result was even more decisive than before. 97% voted no. The galaxy had made its choice when it treated humans as expendable. Now it could live with the consequences. The only question that remained was what would come next. The Council was dead. That much was clear. But the galaxy was still full of intelligent species, and eventually, some would come to Earth asking for help. When that day came, humanity would need to decide what kind of relationship it wanted with the rest of the universe. 10 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Captain Song Ara had been just a child when the Exodus happened. She grew up hearing stories about the old days when humans served a galaxy that did not respect them. Now she was a patrol officer, leading a squadron along Earth's borders, protecting human interests and nothing else. Her sensors detected a ship drifting in space. It was old, damaged, barely functioning. The hull showed signs of Velizian design, but it had been modified, with parts from a dozen different species. A refugee ship, cobbled together from whatever materials people could find. "Should we hail them, Captain?" her co-pilot asked. Ara nodded. The communication channel crackled open. A Velizian voice came through, weak and desperate. "This is refugee ship Morning Hope. We have 300 survivors aboard. Our life support is failing. We request asylum in human space." Era checked her authorization protocols. She was cleared to make first contact decisions for situations like this. "Morning Hope, this is Captain Song Era of Earth Defense. What is your situation?" the Velizian explained. Their world had been destroyed by the plague that Dr. Kim Nari tried to stop a decade ago. Over 2 billion had died before the disease finally burned itself out. The survivors scattered across space, looking for anywhere that would take them. "We have children aboard. the Valesian said. Please. We have nowhere else to go. Ara made a decision. Morning Hope, you are cleared to dock at Orbital Station 7. We will provide humanitarian assistance. She closed the channel and sent a report to Admiral Jiwoo. The Admiral received her report in his office on Earth. He had been promoted from captain during the restructuring after the Exodus. Now he handled Earth's diplomatic contact with alien species. What little there was. The Valesian refugees were not the first. Over the past decade, various species had approached human space asking for help. Some wanted trade agreements. Others needed medical assistance. Many were just refugees looking for a safe place. Each case required careful consideration. Earth's government had been clear. Humanity would never return to the old system of exploitation, but they also would not become isolationists, turning their backs on everyone. The question was finding the right balance. Jiwoo called a meeting with Prime Minister Kang and the cabinet. The Valesian refugee ship was the test case, the decision that would set precedent for how Earth dealt with the remnants of the old council. Former Ambassador Yuna was there, now serving as an advisor. She had retired from active diplomacy but still helped shape Earth's policies. We need to be careful, she said. If we help everyone who asks, we will end up right back where we started. But if we help no one, we become as cruel as they were. What do you suggest? Kang asked. Limited humanitarian assistance. We help the refugees because they are people in need, not because we owe them anything. We provide asylum, medical care, basic supplies, but we make it clear this is charity, not obligation. And we absolutely refuse any contact with the old council leadership. The ones who exploited us do not get to benefit from our mercy. The cabinet debated for hours. Some wanted to turn the refugees away entirely, afraid of being drawn back into galactic affairs. Others argued for unrestricted aid. Eventually, they reached a compromise. Earth would provide humanitarian assistance to refugees and disaster victims, but it would be done on human terms, with fair compensation for resources provided, and under strict conditions. Any species wanting human help would negotiate properly, pay properly, and show genuine respect. Most importantly, the policy included a blacklist. Members of the old council leadership were permanently banned from human space. Councillor Thex, Councillor Vrax, and others like them would receive no help from humanity. Ever. The policy announcement went out across the galaxy. Reactions were mixed. Some species were grateful for any help at all. Others were angry that Earth would dare to set conditions. Those angry voices mostly came from former council members who still did not understand what they had done wrong. Councillor Thex heard the announcement on his failing station. He was dying slowly. As the life support systems broke down piece by piece, the message was clear. Humanity would help the victims of the council's collapse, but not the council members who caused it. He recorded one final message, knowing it would be his last. To future generations of all species, I leave this testament. We had partners who would have built a great civilization with us. Instead, we treated them as servants. We took their labor, their lives, their goodwill, and gave nothing in return. We were surprised when they left. We should not have been. His voice grew weaker. They are showing mercy now to refugees, but not to us. This is justice. We deserve nothing from them. Remember this lesson. Respect is not optional. Equality is not negotiable. And exploitation always carries a price. The message became known as Thex's Final Testament. It was taught in schools across the surviving civilizations, a warning about the cost of taking others for granted. Meanwhile, humanity thrived. Without the burden of maintaining the council, Earth and its colonies flourished. Human engineers developed new technologies for themselves. Human farmers grew food for human colonies. Human soldiers defended human interests. Everything they had been doing for others, they now did for themselves. The difference was remarkable. Resources that had been spread across 47 species were now concentrated on one. Human technology advanced rapidly. New colonies were established. The economy boomed. Some alien species approached Earth with genuine requests for partnership. Not aid, not charity, but actual partnership. Admiral Jiwoo evaluated each request carefully. He had spent years serving the Council and knew how to spot exploitation. A small species called the Tauren asked to establish a trade embassy on Earth. They offered real value in exchange, rare minerals that humans needed, in fair trade for human agricultural products. Jiwoo approved the request. This was partnership, not exploitation. Another species, the Kelth, requested medical assistance with a genetic disorder affecting their population. They offered to pay for the research, share all findings, and credit human scientists properly. Jiwoo approved this too. Respect went both ways. But when a former council species demanded human engineers fix their beacon network, claiming it was humanity's responsibility, Jiwoo refused. You had 200 years to learn how the systems worked. You chose not to. That is not our problem. Slowly, carefully, Earth built new relationships with alien species. But these were relationships of equals, not masters and servants. Any species that wanted human help had to earn it through respect and fair dealing. Captain Song Ara continued her patrols, occasionally encountering refugee ships. Each one received the same treatment: humanitarian assistance, asylum if they qualified, but no return to the old ways. She took pride in her work, knowing she was part of a new era for humanity. 20 years after the Exodus, Earth dedicated a memorial to the 340,000 humans who died serving the Galactic Council. Prime Minister Kang, now elderly, gave the dedication speech in front of a massive wall engraved with names. They served with honor, he said. They believed in unity and cooperation. That dream was betrayed, not by them, but by those they served. We remember them today and honor their sacrifice by ensuring it will never happen again. He looked out at the crowd, at the representatives from the few alien species that had earned Earth's respect through genuine partnership. We stand now as equals with any species that will meet us as equals. We offer friendship to those who offer friendship in return. But we will never again carry the galaxy on our shoulders while being treated as less than those we carry. The memorial wall showed all those names. Hundreds of thousands of humans who died, believing in something better. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had learned from their deaths. Never again would humans serve others at the cost of themselves. Young people like Captain Ara studied the memorial in their history classes. They learned about the council years, about the exploitation, about the Exodus. Most importantly, they learned about self-respect and the courage to walk away from situations that diminish you. The galaxy was darker now than in the Council's golden age. Travel was harder. Trade was limited. Many civilizations had collapsed or regressed. But those that survived were learning to stand on their own, and those that came to Earth did so with respect. Humanity had taught the universe a lesson that would echo for generations. Those who give everything will eventually give nothing. Those who take everything will find themselves with nothing left to take. And those who learn respect too late will pay the price of their arrogance. Earth stood as a monument to that lesson, prosperous and independent, willing to help, but never again willing to be exploited. The silent departure had been painful for everyone, but necessary. Sometimes the only way to teach respect is to show that you are willing to walk away, and humanity had walked away with dignity, leaving behind a galaxy that finally understood the value of what it had lost.